Hello boxers and drunkards, Aaron here, back with another video. It's banner time everyone, and yes, this is still happening despite it being late, but hey, I'm always late, it just happens. I wanted to try and get Charlotte's video out of the way sooner rather than later, but hey, you know, stuff happens. Anyway, banners, let's talk. As always, we're going to start from 5 stars on the banners to 4 stars, and then best to worst in each category. Let's start with character banners. Wriothesley is the newest character and is the first Cryocatalyst character being released into the game. He's able to output a massive amount of damage while also acting as a crazy good driver. His playstyle is similar to that of Tartaglia and Scaramouche, as he mixes in both normal and charge attacks. This can be considered good for some, as they might like this type of playstyle, but it also might turn some off from him. It's mostly just a preference thing. However, he has an even harsher detriment in his health drain, his lack of sustain, and most importantly, his lack of AoE damage. He still can offer some insane damage and some strong cryo application, which is very good if there's a need for it, but this will only be against one enemy, which is never a good thing. He also has the issue that he's best in melt comps, which have very little team versatility. Thankfully, he can also work relatively well in every other cryo comp out there, due to his great base numbers. While he won't surpass everyone else, he's still a monster and will end up being rather competitive with other cryo DPS units. While I do still want to talk about his constellations a little bit, I'm not going to go too in-depth since he's new and he probably won't get a lot of traction anyway with Fiorina coming out soon. I still do want to discuss them a little bit though, so I will stick to his first 2 constellations, which are also the only 2 that are worth going for. His first is very good as it allows him to heal himself and deal more damage with his charge attacks. It's the constellation that will put him on par with most of their damaging units, which kind of sucks. His C2 is also good, but just a yawn-inducing damage buff for his burst. This might help his damage output by a decent amount, but it's mostly to put him on par with other AoE damaging units. Then there's Venti. Venti is the other 5-star character on the banner. The God of Domains might be the best character in the game, but only in certain situations. Venti has always been an on and off switch, as he will either single-handedly decimate content or be one of the least impactful characters in the game. At the current moment, Venti is much more popular for casual players and the content that pairs with them, like Domains in co-op, the Overworld, and in the earlier Abyss floors. However, in much harder content, he becomes one of the worst picks because he lives and dies by his ability to group enemies close together. His constellations don't help with the matter at all either, as they all rather suck. Pun not intended. His first is a shotgun he never needs, since his burst does everything. His talent level increases don't matter too much, since he scales much easier with elemental mastery over pure damage. His C4 doesn't benefit him too much, since he doesn't really need the animo damage bonus, and his C2, which can be considered pretty good, is mostly going to just be for his own personal damage output, which he didn't really need a buff to anyway. The only constellation he has that is of any value is his C6, which shreds even more animo resistances, plus the resistances of any element it absorbs. This C6 is the only constellation that will impact other units, so a C0 to C5 Venti will still be reliant on obliterating mobs quickly, which he always does insanely well. This means that there will be very little difference between a Venti of all constellations other than when he's at C6. Venti is not in a great spot at the moment if you care about the harder forms of content in the game, but if you don't, he will be one of the best units you can pull for. Now onto the 4 stars, starting with the best, Thoma. Thoma has a crap ton of issues. Yeah, that's the starting sentence you'll want to hear when talking about the best 4-star on the banner, but it's true. He applies little of his element, he has little base damage, his shield kinda sucks and requires a normal attacking unit to be decent, his shield requires the use of his burst, but he has massive energy issues, he's an all-around mess. However, he has one good thing going for him, that being his ability to proc the Burgeon reaction. Here, he is the best unit, as no one else outputs AoE pyro damage at the same frequency as he can. He's so great at this that, to some, he may even be considered the best character on this banner because of his ability to proc the reaction. Next up is Dori, who has all of the same issues as Thoma, but without the upside of being the best at a niche. She is massively outclassed by Kuki, but with less area, a higher energy requirement, and less uptime. She's just not good right now. And the health reduction meta for Fontaine coming up very quickly, it seems like she will continue to live in Kuki's shadow. Chongyun is the last, as he offers really nothing. I don't have much else to say about him. He's just a worse option in all situations. Even in the ones where he is a decent option, he will be worse than others in all regards. My boy needs some help. Okay, so this side of the banners is legitimate garbage. It's so freaking bad. It's just so freaking bad. This is probably one of the worst character banners we've ever received. Characters here are either pretty good or some of the worst characters in the game with no in between. There's very little synergy here too, as the only 2 who can work together are Wriothesley and Thoma, just because Wriothesley wants to normal attack. But otherwise, this banner also offers no synergies within. It's just really bad. But what about the weapon banner? Maybe there's something here worth pulling? Well, fortunately, the Elegy for the End is on here. Elegy for the End is the best weapon in a game. This thing is the Noblesse Oblige artifact set mixed with the Instructor set. On top of that, it offers energy recharge, which is the best stat in the game, and its passive is very easy to proc. This means that Elegy would be one of the best weapons for every single bow character in the game other than Yoimiya, Linny, and Aloy. Hell, it even made Amber a meta support for Hu Tao at one point. point. That's just how powerful this bow is. It's freaking good, man. Thankfully, its sister weapon is also very good. Cashflow Supervision is very strong, but only for main DPS Catalyst characters. This weapon will prove to be a main DPS Catalyst character's best in slot weapon at max stacks, which is insane. Even without max stacks, it will prove to be just as good as the Witsith for these characters. It's a very powerful weapon option, and in the upcoming health draining meta we're coming into, it will be one of the best weapons in the game. Now onto the 4 stars, going from best to worst, and starting with, obviously, Favonius Sword. This weapon is part of the Favonius weapon series, making it one of the best weapons in the game. It offers energy recharge and that grotesque passive that we know and love. Not many weapons can match the sheer strength and versatility and the supportive utility that this offers. For most support sword users, this will be one of their best in slot weapons, if not their best. Ending off my positive vibes, we have the rest of the banner. The range gauge and Prospector's drill share the same stats and same passive. However, this passive is very situational and still very bad. In most situations, these weapons will never be good enough to contend with free-to-play options. I still have no idea why these things haven't gotten buffed when they suck so bad, but Hoyoverse has made many terrible decisions before. I shouldn't be baffled at this point. Finally, we have the Rainslasher and the Eye of Perception. I have made my distaste for these weapons clear many times before, but they keep putting these things out there, so I'm going to keep crapping on them. Rainslasher is good for very few characters, as its passive might be good, but it's not really usable in a lot of circumstances, and its Elemental Mastery substat is too low to not use the free-to-play Mailed Flower instead. Almost all Claymore users also have energy issues, which would be resolved by the Favonius Greatsword. This weapon will usually completely dominate most other greatswords out there for sheer power, including the Rainslasher itself. Eye of Perception is in a similar boat, as it's just a terrible Witsith. There's even an event going on right now for a new Catalyst weapon that will be a million times better than anything the Eye of Perception can offer. The stat spread is poor, the passive is garbage, this weapon has almost nothing going for it. In total, the weapon banner, while being better than the character banner, is still really bad. Almost every single 4-star on here weighs it down tremendously, which is sad, especially since the Elegy is on here. All in all, I can't recommend this banner. It's absolute garbage. There are too many 4 stars weighing it down that despite it having some things that are good or even broken, it's just not worth the risk. On top of this, almost nothing here is synergistic with anything else. Sure, we have the 5-star characters with their signature weapons, but neither Dori nor Chongyun want the Rainslasher, Thoma doesn't want Prospectors, Venti doesn't want Range Gauge, and Wriothesley doesn't want Eye of Perception. I'm pretty sure the reason why they're sticking all these bad weapons and poor performing characters next to each other is because they're trying to make the arena's banner sell even better. But despite this, I will be pulling, and I will post my pain. But how about all of you? Do you plan to pull? What or who are you pulling for? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. With that, I will skedaddle. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Bye bye.